Hey everyone, so I returned from AU on Thursday, and then I went into the office on Friday, and then Saturday it was just catching up on just laundry and just trying to get everything put away, and it's just been a really busy week with work and Autodesk University. And I forgot to bring my charger while I was out there, so I wasn't able to do anything live. I mostly just used my computer for work stuff, just in case I didn't want it to die. And so I didn't get to record anything on there while I was out there, but I wanted to just take some time to talk about it, my experience while I was out there, and just some insights that I gained, just kind of how the whole thing went. On my screen right now is just the Autodesk website, so definitely check that out. I don't know what all the classes are that they're going to put out there, like all the ones that they recorded that were live. I don't know how much is going to be published, but definitely keep an eye on that because I'm sure there's going to be some good stuff out there at some point. But anyways, that's kind of where I'm at, and yeah, so let's get into how it went. So one of the biggest highlights of AU was definitely meeting all my friends out in the AEC world. Talking with new people that I've never talked with, and just connecting with people from various firms, and that was just really cool. I talked to a lot of folks on LinkedIn, and being able to meet people in person is always really cool. And we got into some pretty cool discussions related to emerging tech. The role of open source was a really good conversation that we got into with some people. And I think that was really cool because not a lot of that was being talked about in the actual classes, but in the discussions between it, there were discussions about open source and how folks were using it. And what's interesting, it seems like people get like approval to use open source tools naturally. I want to say naturally because they're typically, like with open source, the investment is mostly labor, which is a significant investment. But when you're trying to leverage a new tool as a BIM manager, having to pay for a tool is a barrier. And so open source does open that up to where you can say, hey, here's a really cool tool. Can I start kind of investigating it and using it? But there's no extra cost. It's there for us. So that seemed to be a motivator for a lot of firms. There was a couple discussions about that where people were talking about using those tools, open source tools, and adopting them a lot easier than a lot of these proprietary tools like what Autodesk sells. So, but anyways, I think just that part of it, connecting with the community, talking about cool tech within the space between classes is always so much fun. It's probably what I look forward to the most. And after every class, it was cool to run into somebody in the hallway and just have a conversation with them. So that one is really huge. All right, so this isn't surprising, I don't think, for many people that know Autodesk, but it definitely felt very corporate at Autodesk University. Now, I've only been to one other Autodesk conference, and that was in 2017 or 18, so it was a while back. I don't have a ton of experience going to these and how they may have been in the past, if they were more open and there was more interesting applications of unique tools and connecting those to other tools. But this one felt very corporate, a lot of very formal presentations that showed a very strict process on how to do something using some sort of Autodesk tool. Now, all of that makes sense, and I'm just sharing that was kind of the experience or what I felt while I was there, that it felt just very, I don't know, didn't feel like authentic in a way. It was just very prepared, and it's like, like here's all these tools now, go buy them. And there was a lot of focus on, their cloud products, and their the theme of AU, I would say, was pretty big in AI, data, which it seems to be data every year, and then all the cloud stuff. So, and again, that's the cloud has been something for years that people have been talking about. But those are kind of the things that every class talked about. All the general sessions, it was all about AI, data, and in the cloud. So a lot of the sessions felt a bit surface level, and it didn't seem, and and some of this might be related to the fact that I haven't been to a whole lot of conferences, so I may have unrealistic expectations. But a big thing for me, and kind of what I was hoping for, was that I would see use cases of really practical solutions working with people, design teams, and taking a design tool, leveraging it, but also maybe connecting with something a bit more, technical, or using Python or using Dynamo, because a lot of what folks were showing related to the Autodesk products like Tandem or like Autodesk Construction Cloud are all things that aren't really complicated to use. And if we're not going to get into the API side or the very heavy technical things, then I can practically everything that was shown I could find in Google or just by using the tool. And that's where it's like, the technical piece of it's really important that I feel like we didn't get much into. But then also the people side, which I think is really valuable too, because you need to scale, these technologies. You need to implement them within your firm. How do you do that? How do you talk to leadership? How do you get your design teams to leverage these tools, and not just your BIM techs? But how do you get this to be used effectively across all of your teams, and also how do you communicate that value and that benefit to your clients? So there wasn't a huge emphasis on that. Now, however, this is only a very narrowed perspective of this conference because I wasn't in every class, and I heard really great things about other classes that I wasn't able to attend because I was attending a different one. And so I'm sure there was a lot of good discussions and good presentations. I found that the ones I was in, there wasn't many of those. I think I got a handful of classes that were really great and that were very technical. A really big takeaway for me is learning from manufacturing. And so I signed up for some manufacturing classes, mostly because there wasn't any really good MEP, BIM related ones at those times. And so I grabbed some manufacturing ones. And I enjoy that because before getting into AEC, I worked in manufacturing. I worked for Toyota. And so I know there's a lot of practical applications of things from manufacturing to AEC that we could really benefit from. And so sitting in those classes were really cool, and just learning about some of the more complicated data side of things and some of the software they use for managing different facilities. And it was kind of interesting because when I went in there in some of these, I would sit down and it's like I didn't really know what to expect, but there's always little things you can take away, which is always really cool. And I didn't understand a lot because it's like I've never used that tool before. And some of it's like I don't even understand what that even means. And so I took a lot of interesting notes that I'm going to circle back on and just dig into and see if there's ways to take that concept and apply it to what I do in the MEP BIM space. So I think there's a huge benefit in attending classes like that, not just in manufacturing, but even, gaming or other industries, because there's little things you can take away that might benefit. Now, I didn't have any oh, that would be great moments, great things to take immediately and apply. I mostly took down notes of things that I wanted to come back around on. It was like, maybe look into this software or look into this particular workflow and see if there's things that could be used in AEC that we haven't thought of yet. So I'm excited to do that. But I attended, I think, about three different manufacturing classes, and they were pretty cool. So I definitely recommend, if you're ever attending a conference, if there's an interesting one in another industry, I recommend just checking it out, because you might have some useful takeaways. You may not, but you may find something really cool that could be applied to what you do in your industry. So, conclusion to this and AU and that experience is that it was a pretty fantastic experience. I learned a lot. Not every class is, a hit, and that's kind of to be expected at any conference. But even in those, there's still some, takeaways from them. And, every class I would sit in there and I'd start to think like, oh, I could, this is a small thing I could change in my approach to what I'm doing with data with my teams. And you kind of get those moments throughout it. And so I definitely recommend having some sort of note-taking tool, and that could be, a paper and pencil or a laptop. I used my phone in Notion and took tons of notes, and it's really easy to organize them and keep everything kind of easy to find. But there was a lot of moments throughout every class and every interaction where it was like, oh, this is something I need to dig into, or this would be a really cool thing to discuss, on Discord or LinkedIn, or this would be a cool topic for YouTube. Or, like, there was a lot of these, because I spend 8-9 hours a day at my work working on really cool things, and I was connecting the dots on a lot of things that I've been thinking about for some time. We're pushing forward on a lot of data stuff, pushing forward on automation, and I'm always thinking about better ways of adopting and getting people to adopt new tools, but then also what's our strategy that creates an environment where when we use tools, they are effective and they're valuable to us and, our clients. So there were a lot of moments like that throughout all these classes. And something I didn't mention up to this point was that the exhibit hall, so that was really cool. There was a lot of different vendors there, and I got to meet some of the different vendors that I've never talked to before, and I've got a lot of friends that work at those vendors, so I was able to stop there and talk with them, and that was really awesome too, just to catch up. But those are cool because you can see kind of the range of different tools out there, and what I like to do is I'll go and find the MEP related ones, but I like to look at other tools and software in other areas to try to learn from those. So I actually walked through the exhibit hall and I started to write down the different tools that I've never used before, that I've never heard of. I tried to talk to some, but it's just so busy there and there's so much stuff. So I would write them down so I could go research it and Google it later and see what it's about and how it might be beneficial. So that was really cool. But overall, the experience was fantastic. I definitely recommend, a conference like AU. Built's another good conference. I think there's one called Midwest or something. There's a lot of good conferences out there. I definitely recommend looking into those and trying to attend them. They're a great way to connect with people, to learn a lot of stuff, and those connections you make will last a long time, and way past after the conference. You'll connect with folks that you made friends with, and you may ask them questions or have conversations about other things related to BIM or whatever. And so there's just so much more benefits than just the classes themselves. Anyways, this is kind of my thoughts on that experience. Hopefully you got something out of this. I'd love to hear if you went to AU. I'd love to hear your experience. If you attended it online, let me know how that was. I try to attend those every year online. This year, since I was there, I wasn't able to really look at that. But I'd love to know how that went for you and if you learned anything cool there. Definitely comment below. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.